Hi, this is Danny Jarabek here with Awards Radar, and I'm very delighted to have with me today Mary McDonnell from Netflix series The Fall of the House of Usher. Mary, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm fantastic. I'm thrilled to talk about House of Usher. I could talk about it every day for the rest of my life. It was so extraordinary. And we've had a little chat, and I'm very excited for you. You're about to graduate. This is all a good.
Yes, yes. It's a great time, and I'm very excited to have an opportunity to speak with you because I love this series. I love Mike Flanagan's work. It's fantastic. I think this series is a fantastic kind of addition to his his body of work, and I'm so glad to see you in it, of course, as well. So I'm curious to hear what was your starting point with, coming into this project, your interest in working with Flanagan.
Well, the first thing that happened was I got a text from my dear friend Michael Trucco, who I've done Battlestar Galactica with.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and Mike has done many, Michael Trucco has done many Flanagan projects. So he sent me a text and he said, hey, love, I am sending this out. You're going to be speaking, perhaps, hopefully, to Mike Flanagan and Trevor Macy. As you know, they're the creators I work with a lot. And they asked me to put in a good word before you do. And I said, oh, thank you. I love that. He said, they're some of the best people I've ever worked with. So I already knew a lot about the way Mike Flanagan works because so many actors that I know are involved in his world. So then Mike, we set up a Zoom with Mike and Trevor, and they were offering Madeline Usher. And the very first thing I said to them was, guys, I got to be honest. I know you sort of by reputation, but I don't know your work. I am absolutely incapable of watching horror. I can't let go of it. It scares the crap out of me. I am a total fraidy cat. And I'm one of those people that it's, I guess, part of the talent is I really believe everything. You know what I mean? I'm like, so I can't separate. So I've never been able to truly enjoy horror because then I don't sleep and I see things behind doors and yada yada. So I told him that right
I
away.
was I was
And
actually sort of curious to hear if you were a horror fan or if you
oh,
so
I
that's funny to
I
hear.
can't do it. Ever since I saw The Exorcist as a young woman, I ran out of the movie theater and said, I'm going to die. I can't do this. I just can't do it. And Mike laughed and he said, they both laughed. And one of them said, I think it was Mike, we're not asking you to watch it, we're asking you to do it. And I went, oh, hey, that's different, isn't it? It's because I will be acting and I'll be part of the mechanism that creates the event. I don't have to be the receptor of the event, right? And then they sent me midnight mass and asked if so that I could learn more about the way Mike writes and see Mike Famignori's great cinematography and really see the whole ensemble at work. And I had to go, like this a couple of times. I just was so scared I couldn't do it. So I'd fast forward to like the next dialogue scene or monologue, and be like, oh my God. So I was so, so blown away by his writing. I was stunned, frankly. And so then he sent me all the episodes of House of Usher, and I read it in a day, and I couldn't clearly I could not play Madeline Usher. I No, there's no way. And by this point, I was primed anyway. I probably would have done anything for Mike Flanagan already. But when I saw this character, I've never met a woman like her. I've never seen a woman so unabashedly, ruthlessly wield power. And I've never seen that combined with a clear explanation of the trauma at the core of her being, as well as uh, she's an earth scorcher for sure, but towards the end, she goes after everything that capitalism creates for women, everything. And I was like, there has never been a character like Madeline Usher. So clearly I had to play her.
Well, it's such a compelling character, and it's one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you about her because I was curious to kind of when I was watching her, just she has this calmness and calculatedness about her, despite all of those kind of that ruthlessness that you also alluded to. How to
Yeah.
kind of find into what you yourself are calling an incredibly unique character.
Yes. I think that I have learned a couple of things in my career, and I played a couple of very powerful women in leadership positions, right? And in what I have learned is that even though we are becoming more and more a culture that allows women power in some very big places, there is still something necessary about being the smartest listener in any room. And in Madeline's case, she was running the show quietly while taking care of
Mhm.
her narcissistic brother. So she had to work out of reserve as opposed to working from bombast. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
leadership in women sometimes requires a lot of um, uh, attentiveness and a lot of cover. That's how I feel.
That is, no, I think that's wonderfully put because I think it really shines through in this character who you very kind of slowly, gradually realize how much power she's wielding behind the scenes, and it's not immediately like present and visible in this aggressive way that potentially your brother character in this is kind of wielding, but
And
it's very compelling to see
and
how
all
it
the
you
kids,
unfold.
and all the kids, all the
Yes, yeah.
nephews, they're just, it's all out there. And Mike wrote it. He wrote a very, Madeline's very wily. She really knows that she has to keep track of everything. So when you have to keep track of everything, you've got to watch, right? You
Hmm.
want to be watched. She did not want to be watched. I don't mean the actress. I mean Madeline Usher didn't want to pull their attention towards her. She was too busy moving things forward, protecting the company, protecting her brother, trying to clean up after the children, and then ultimately having to be kind of an amazing thriller murder detective. And with all of that also came a woman who feels so confident that she felt she could confront an entity in Verna. Like, who is that? Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of quiet. That's a lot of learning. That's a lot of clever calculation that's going on constantly. So that's kind of how I came to her energy.
Yeah, that clever calculation, I think, is really what drew me into the character. But you also mentioned, of course, this connection to this Verna character. I'm also curious because, we see an earlier version, of course, as well with by Willa Fitzgerald. How did that kind of help either inform or was the collaborative process in that regard?
Well, really, frankly, how we did it. First of all, I love Willa so much. We're great friends now and fans. And I didn't know her work. I was already shooting when Mike cast her. So he called me and he said, I found out this is who it is. She's great. She's perfect. And I said, uh, ask her if I can email her. He said, of course. And so the next day we were Zooming. Willa and we just stayed on Zoom for like 2 hours and just chatted and found out all about each other. And it was so interesting. Mike is such a good cast. He's so good at casting. It was, there was sort of instant simpatica between Willa and I. So that we didn't really have to, we never really questioned that we would be on the same page. It was just there. And then Willa came up to shoot, and we had finally had dinner face to face. And at dinner, she told me that Mike had sent her some of my dailies. So she'd been able to start to absorb some of the rhythms and nuance that I brought to Madeline. And because Willa is brilliant, she was able to completely embody them, and they just were there occasionally. And I've had so many people say to me, it gave me chills. Like I was watching Willa and I suddenly heard you, and that kind of thing. And so that's how it happened. We really didn't have any rehearsals together, nothing like that. It was just kind of, when someone's a genius writer, as Mike is, and he's also an excellent study of actors, he understands actors. So his talent as in casting is pretty phenomenal.
That's really cool to hear. And it's actually really kind of funny to hear on my end as well, because I also spoke to someone else from another series who had almost exactly the same thing, where part of the show was a younger version of themselves, and part of the show was that. And so it's very funny to hear how like that can be informative, or it was actually a little bit of a reverse of your situation, where they had shot all of the kind of older side of things, and then it's just really funny to hear how that plays out, and I've got to have a couple of conversations about it.
Well, it can go one way or the other, can't it? I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
if the casting isn't right, there isn't an inherent simpatico is the only way I know how to pronounce it or explain it in the casting, depending on the timing of it, it won't make sense. You won't buy it. You won't necessarily buy that they are the same human. But in this
right.
case, I thought it worked really well. Yeah.
Well, I definitely agree. I have one more question for you. We mentioned this character of Verna. What
Mhm.
did you see in the connection between Verna and Madeline, their early interaction and then later confrontation? What did you see in that arc and their connection with how Madeline, you kind of felt this like almost otherworldly in a way, kind of connection to who this person was?
I go back to the original thing that we see that formed Madeline Usher, which was the very last image Madeline has of her own beloved mother, is a creature who is able to crawl her way out of a badly constructed coffin and go and strangle the man who had abused her. So we see this. If you start with that's at the core of Madeline, seeing that her mother had some other thing going on with her. That's not normal. So I started with that. So something in the incarnation of the usher, starting with the mother, had a connection to the spirit world. We'll call it whatever you want. I'm a fraidy cat, so I don't want to call it anything else. So I say the spirit world. Isn't that lovely? So I knew that Madeline, according to DNA, where I think all of it's stored and all of it's possible, had the potential to work on other levels. Her recognition, something that happens young to Willa and Verna in the bar, there's clearly something there that younger Madeline isn't quite getting, but gets enough to change the course of her own life. She never, ever, ever would have a child given the agreement. Do you know what I'm saying? So I knew that
Hmm.
Madeline had the ability to understand that there's something else going on other than nominal reality. So when we did the scene together, and Carla and I are now like same thing, fast friends, we were very clear that they knew each other well somehow. And that didn't, that just wasn't hard to accept given what I knew about my mother. Do you know what I'm saying? Like something else is going on here. And Madeline, Roderick was very much in denial about it, but Madeline had whatever the mother had, which was the ability to actually step into a different level of power and understanding. And Madeline's lifetime took that to another level. So I don't believe, this is my thing with Mike Flanagan. because I've talked to so many fans because I do conventions now and then, so I've met so many fans of this show. I keep saying, "My, like, Madeline is not dead. She will come back. She can come back again and again. So let's do Madeline and Verna part two, because clearly they both, if she can sit there and recognize who Verna is and Verna knows who she is, they're working on other levels here. So can't we bring Madeline and Verna back for season two in a whole other reality? I don't think he's going to do it, but I thought it was a good point. So that's how I feel about all of that.
Well, I would love to see it, or whatever comes
All
of it,
right.
but
Yeah.
as
Sort
a
of,
fan of the show, of course.
yeah, it would be sort of like, and bring them back together. So they're working on something together, karmically for someone else. They could be like the Laverne and Shirley of elevated horror. You know what I mean? It would be, and also Carla and I, we have great chemistry. So we need to do more together. And that's clear as well. So.
Well, thank you so much, Mary. It was absolutely wonderful to speak with you. I love hearing a little bit more behind the scenes of this fantastic series, fantastic character in Madeline Usher, and fantastically portrayed by you. So thank you. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to what's next.
I thank you and I congratulate you ahead of time. Have a great time, and I look forward to seeing what you create in the world, my love. So thank you very much.
Yes,
Okay, bye-bye.
thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, you too.